To the Godly Parenting Summit 2023. I say 2023 because we plan for this to be an annual event. By this time every year, we will gather and we will talk about how to parent in a godly manner. This week, we'll be having who exactly is a parent. And over the next 6 weeks, we're going to cover 6 different topics, ranging from parental roles, responsibilities, and boundaries, parenting in the 21st century, effective communication in parenting, designing your parenting journey, and parenting with the father. I mean, what a way to round off. If you don't parent with the father, then what are you really doing? So we move to the next slide, and just a second. So my name is Ife Okafor. I'm the convener of this auspicious gathering. I'm a wife and a mom of 4 wonderful children. I'm a parenting strategist, and I'm playing my part to try to raise wholesome and godly families. I am also the co-founder of a platform called the Digital Parenting School, where we focus on giving parents and guardians the tools and the skills they need to be able to raise their children in this digital world. You can find that on Instagram by the same name. And I'm a certified management consultant and IT professional. I'm an author, and I love mentoring youths in my spare time. But for today, I'll be taking the back seat. We have a very auspicious speaker, and her name is Mrs. Chinelo Ujubuonu. She is a very experienced mother. As you can see, she's been married 26 years, and she has 6 children. Yes, she has 6 children. She's a certified coach with the Learning and Performance Institute of the UK. She's a council member of the Qatar Educational Foundation. She's a mass communicator and an administrator with over 23 years experience in educating in values and family enrichment. I mean, who better to talk to us about who a parent is than someone that has this amount of experience? She has been involved in advocating for family-friendly policies within her community. She's passionate about strengthening and protecting traditional families the way we know them, not the families that we see these days that make us wonder. She worked in an NGO whose thematic focus is on education and empowerment of women, of young girls for 14 years, and she offers counseling services to families and runs an NGO called Ozuzu Amaka, which means good upbringing is golden. And so without much ado, I will pin Ms. Chinelo's face so that you can see her, and we start. Thank you. So, ma'am, over to you.
All right. when these things are read out, I hardly recognize myself. Thank you, Fee, for the invite, and thank you everybody who have said, especially someone who said, wow, it's not a rocket science, it's just what it is, and we all have to be that. So Ife has graciously put in the goals for this session, which is definition of the parent, your parenting scorecard, and the different types of parenting styles, and who exactly is a parent. So we need to understand these 4 goals and keep it in put it down, pin it down, screen grab it, and make sure by the end of the session, if these 4 goals were actually met. If they weren't, that means I haven't done a good job, but I pray that I would be able to meet your expectations on this. And therefore, I'd like to go to the next slide, Ife. All right, so these are definitions of a parent. Let's look critically at this definition. I have categorized them into 3, and the first one is the definition of the dictionary definition, and it sounds very, very, very typical of what we think parenting is. A parent is. So it's a person who begets or brings forth offspring, a child, especially the natural parents of child born of their marriage, a relative or somebody who plays the role of a guardian. I'm sure most of us recognize this, and sometimes this definition may not be all encompassing, but this is just the basic. If you heard Ife, I am an advocate of the traditional parent or family, So the Christian definition is not far from the dictionary definition. So is a parent or a father or a mother, he or she that brings forth offspring, given the responsibility of bringing up a child, he or she should go to nurture, to train, develop, discipline, and etc. So, but the question here is, who exactly is a parent by your own definition? And at this point, I'd like to stop. Can you give me your own definition of who a parent is? How do you define yourself? How? Is it just the definition of the dictionary definition or the Christian definition? How do you define yourself? I'd like to see answers on. Remember that if you said this is going to be quite interactive, what is your definition in, if you have to define yourself as a parent, what will be your definition? If a child asks you, you're a parent, please, what is a parent? What would you answer? What would your answer be to that child? No one? It's not dumb question.
Quiet. I mean, there's no wrong answer here.
Of course. And it's not dumb question anyway. Any answer can, because it's your definition. It's your definition. Can we have someone, just one or two persons to drop their own definition? That's why if you were saying, please change your device name to your actual name, so we know whom we're talking to, whom we're speaking to. So what's your definition?
There are some definitions in the chat box. Do you want us to chat or you want us to answer? Which one do you want us to do? Do you want us to speak?
I haven't seen anyone. I haven't seen
Okay, let me read out some of the ones I'm seeing. Brenda says, a parent is one whom God has gifted with a child to guide and shepherd them through life. Buki Lawal says, a person that nurtures and guides. Okolo Adobe says, parenting is the intentional act of raising a younger one rightly. And Amoge says, a parent is someone who reproduces his or herself.
Thank you for this beautiful definition. Definitely all of them encompasses who a parent is. And I'm happy that we have come up with these definitions. So the one that strikes me the most is to reproduce yourself. And that's true. But how do we do that? Because we need to examine ourselves. If we want to reproduce ourselves, are we reproducing with all our defects or with all our weaknesses and strength? Or are we reproducing with with the mindset of, I want my child to be perfect? What are we reproducing? So, what the Bible says about, what does the Bible say about says about a parent? Grandchildren are the crown of the aged, and the glory of children is their parents. So you can see that it's a generational thing. Our parenting does not stop when our children are grown. I remember years back when I just got married, my father was speaking to one of a priest, actually, because I am a Catholic. So he was speaking to a priest who has been a friend of his for so many years. And he said, I thought after sending these children to university, my work is done. And the priest said, no, your work has just started. So that's where you can see now he has grandchildren. He has to still mentor his grandchildren. He has to tell stories to his grandchildren. He has to communicate and nurture them, and be with them whenever he visits. He tells them lots and lots of stories of those days. So the second definition of what the Bible says about the parent is shepherds. Be shepherds of good flocks that is under your care. If you may need to mute everybody, and then when it's time, you're mute.
Yes, I've done that.
Raise their hands. Thank you. So be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care. And that's why some of the definitions given by our participants are all also correct. Brenda gave a definition that fits this Bible passage, under your care, watching over them, not just because you must, but because you are willing as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. One thing I need to tell parents at this point is that all children are on loan. We are just custodians of these children that God has given to us. or to the people that has been placed in our care, particularly those little children or those girls that come into our house, whether we pay them or not, they are under our roof, under our care, under our mentorship, under everything that your biological child is entitled to. Therefore, they also deserve your parenting, deserve you to be a good parent to them, a good mentor to them, a good guardian to them, a good everything that you know that is good. They deserve that as well. So whatever you do, you may not be in the same capacity on the same level, but again, you're showing love, you're showing care, you're providing, you're giving all that you can give to these children. And when they leave your house, the one thing remarkable they remember is the care, the love, the mentorship you gave to them, not just the money you're paying or the schools you sent them to, but that mentorship of knowing that this child may not be mine, but as long as this child is under my roof, I must take care of that child. So at this point, I'd like to use the link to take a quiz, a quick quiz to assess your current parent scorecard. You may need to look at that. What's your scorecard? How is it? Whilst you are doing that, we may need to talk, but look at it critically. Answer those questions. There are about 20 of them. Answer them courageously. Answer them as though you are examining yourself. You're telling yourself the truth. You are not going to pretend because if he may see your answers at the end of the day. No, it's for you to know who you are. At the beginning, I said you need to examine yourself, to reproduce yourself. How are you reproducing yourself? Are you reproducing yourself to create a perfect child? Are you reproducing yourself to make sure that this child is well tutored in order to become a fine gentleman or lady of character? Because whatever we do, even if the child is a first class in the whole wide world and lacks character, we have done nothing. That child will never be beneficial to the people around him. He will lack that emotional intelligence that we all yearn for, and he or she may not even be a team player. So what is your parent scorecard? What is it? How do you care for those children? While you're answering this, because it's something, and there's an analysis, the results there. So you need to be sincere with yourself. How many minutes are we giving them to go through this?
Maybe we give about 5 more minutes just so that people can, answer the questions. Some might have challenges with network or something like that. For those, as you finish, could you just type "I've finished" so that we have an idea of how many people have finished and if we should extend time or just continue with that?
Thank you for that. So it's a question we need to. For me, I call it the examination of conscience on parenting. So it's if you has put it as a wholesome parent quiz, it's something you need to do from time to time. For those of us who have adult children, one thing I didn't say at the beginning is that my oldest is 24, while my youngest is 13. So you can see, for those of us who have adult children, these questions come up often, again and again and again and again and again. And especially when they drop a comment, and that comment is indirectly or directly telling you have done something right or you have done something wrong. If it's a case of you have not done it well, because you need to examine that process. You need to examine that comment. You need to find out why that child dropped that comment. And it is work in progress. Somebody said, there are no perfect parents. We are not perfect. We are striving to be perfect. So that is known that nobody teaches. You just learn on the go, just like we're doing today. There are things you may be doing or you may have learned from your parents, from friends, from relations, from experiences, and you think it's right. But as you go on, you find that you keep on dropping and picking. You drop and pick. You drop and pick, because if you don't drop, you will never pick, because you need to go down to drop and you need to go down to pick. So it's something that we need constantly to ask ourselves how this is going, you know. So we need to understand this and keep on doing that. I can see that Brenda is done, Efe is done, and I don't know who else is done.
Are others done?
Keep on checking those who are, you know. So that's it.
I saw that
So
quiz, man. It's not for the faint of heart. It doesn't even give room for negotiation. I was sweating in AC.
On that, I was about to
Yes.
say that there was no sitting on the fence. It's either you can or you can't. So it was
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The intention is for us to tell ourselves the truth. There's no sitting on the fence. It's either a yes or a no. And it's not a question of sometimes, maybe, occasionally, it's a yes or no answer. So let's be truthful to ourselves, because it just tells us who we are and how we're parenting. And one thing we need to know is that our times are different from the times of our children. Like if you said at the beginning, that God has placed us in this generation to help these children. If you check 30, 40 years ago, the parents then would be screaming blue mother that, this time, these children of these days are nothing compared to our own time, you know, and all that. So for every generation, for every time, for every period, you know, of revolution, as far as I'm concerned, there's a new parenting style. You know, it's not as if the one that existed before is wrong. There's something I heard recently, that revelations don't change. It is our understanding about revelation that changes. So the parenting has always been the same, but the time is changing. Therefore, we need to strategize. And that is the understanding of parenting, the understanding of revelation. You know, it's something that we need to keep on asking our questions. That whilst we're growing up, I asked people, I said, you know what, when you were growing up, you had an idea of what parenting should be, how your parents should have treated you, so that you could just be you could be good, jolly fellows with your parents. And most of them would say yes. I said, so why is it that your child can't even do that with you? These days, they are spoken. So they say it out. In my own time, I dare not. I'll only nurse, dream, and nurture those dreams. Yes, please.
Sorry, I wanted to just address something
Yes,
I'm seeing in the comments. Someone is saying that I saw 2 comments around the quiz not addressing singles. We apologize for the default we, but even as a single parent, you would be able to answer these questions, because it doesn't mean that you have to have just yourself. I mean, if you have a parenting plan or values, you can come up with that, even if you are just the one who's raising your child at this point in time. So please, we apologize for the default we, but please, it should not stop you from taking the quiz.
Thank you, Ifeoma, for that. So parents, it's just know that as long as you're a parent, you saw the definition, you know, of the other people, the participants. It wasn't intended to make it must be a husband and wife issue, but it has something to do with someone who reproduces, someone who is guiding, someone who is providing, someone who is nurturing, someone who is disciplined. You know, these are the qualities of a parent. You know, you nurture, you beget. Even if you're a single parent, you brought forth that child. You know, so like if he has apologized, please do forgive us for that. But know that you were not intentionally excluded, because even a single parent falls under what a parent is, or who exactly a parent is. If we go on now, or
yes, I believe so. I think we have enough dons. Time for unveiling.
Wow. All right. So can we have the results, so that those who have done would score themselves, know where they are, you know, Thank you.
This scorecard is very steep, Sha. Chai.
It's usually used in a physical class because it's really very engaging when we do this. If we're face to face, in person summits.
Oh, especially
Yes.
don't let my people go.
Ah. No, it's not that. Don't say it that way. Don't say it that way. It's just to help us to be better day by day, and see what we can do.
I even think that people should take note of the link, and once in a while you just go back. Yes, it doesn't leave room for gray areas, but at least you can even put in your own gray areas and track your progress. I found it very interesting when I did the test. Somebody got them all. Hey, God.
She got it all.
Atichidelo is like, we have a new speaker in the house.
Here. Yes, we have a superstar. We should sing for that
I will
person.
be meeting somebody in her DM. Some people say
we have
for parents with
here.
young kids. Should we educate them?
What did you say? I didn't get that.
Some people are saying that these are not questions for parents with young kids.
No, they are.
They are.
They are. Look at it critically. Just that probably because we're in a hurry, like if you said, probably after this seminar or this session, just quickly go back to it and look through it. And if you have questions, because I don't believe that I know it all. I believe I keep on learning. So if you have questions you think that could be good for young parents, please put it on, send it to Ify, or you put it in the WhatsApp group. There's a WhatsApp group in case you. Oh, so someone said I couldn't open the link. Probably something is wrong because others have been able to
can I suggest something? Because so that we are able to move forward, right? We're going to extend the conversations in the WhatsApp group. If you haven't been added to the WhatsApp group, or maybe you didn't click the link to join, we just kindly indicate, we'll share the link to the WhatsApp group. Chiamaka, could you do that? Because what we plan to do, we know that 90 minutes may not be enough to cover everybody's situation. But for those who said that the questions are not for young children, I see specifics about social media. We can have those conversations in the WhatsApp group. This test was just to sensitize you to things that we need to be looking out for as parents in this time.
All right. Okay, Simi, thank you for that comment. Thank you for that comment. So this is the result. That's your scorecard or scorecard, whichever you want. So it's 21 to 40 is a red alert. Something is not going on well. And 41 to 50 needs some work. 59, 56 to 69, keep it up, and 70 and above superstar. I'm sure we have a lot of superstars in this participant. So it's best if we look at it again. I do this especially when I have a child who drops something or has behaved in a manner that it's unbecoming, and I'm wondering where I had done wrong. So I go back to these questions to look at it and see where I haven't done something right, and then try to see if there can be an improvement on my own part and that of the child, because it takes two people. Two people can be wrong at the same time. Even though they say two people wrong, it can be wrong at the same time, but sometimes it does happen because the child may have perceived or misunderstood your actions, your words, your spoken words, and then your body language. Meanwhile, you in your own, you intended it to be of benefit to that child. So did you get a low score in the quiz? You are not a bad parent, and that's what I was saying. Now, when I go back is to check if I have done something wrong. That doesn't mean that I am a bad parent. So you have only done the best you could with what you knew, based on how you were groomed and your experiences. So you are not a bad parent. your parents, how were you parented while growing up? Were you in a family where the parents were kings and queens? Your older ones were the lords or the princes and princesses? Or the people, the other relations that are older were the lords, in the house. Therefore, your voice was never heard. And even when you wanted your voice to be heard, you were quickly shut down. And you carried that grudge all through your life. And once you have a child who exhibits that same character that brought you down at that time, you begin to wonder that this child may not succeed and begin to parent the way you have been parented. And the difference between our children these days and even the young, I tell people, go to the village, drop your phone, and an inquisitive child nearby will pick up your phone and start operating that phone. He's in the village. Because they are the natives. No matter where they are, the technology has not been exposed to this child, but this child can quickly and operate a phone, a smartphone, even when he has never seen one, because they are natives, they own it, the technology is theirs. But you as a parent, when you buy a new phone, what happens is that you begin to call the children, please, oh, come and help me. How do I do this? All the language, English they're speaking here is too much for me. I'm sure if you will explain that better, if she has, while some of us, and it happens to most of us, our parents, their grandparents. So the grandparents come around and said, please come and help me. Like my father now, he has, for him to use his mobile banking, he needs somebody around him, But even when you have taught him, tomorrow you need to teach him again. Not because he's not intelligent enough or because he's not educated enough. It's just because this isn't his priority. What he knows that you walk to the bank, you fill a teller, you collect your money. Now you're being told that you can just send money to somebody through the phone. And some of them are skeptical because they've had so many gory stories about mobile internet fraud, bank fraud and all that. So they're also skeptical about what all this technology is all about. Then, do you have an idea how you became the present you? So type your answer. Do you have an idea, which I have given? In fact, I fast forwarded this slide by telling you probably this is what happened when you were growing up. So do you have an idea how you became the present you? Some said parenting, it has to be intentional. Yes, Simi has said everything around her made her the economic, financially, spiritually, socially. These are things that have molded her to become who she is today, So that's Simi, thank you. So that's it. That's what I am, and that is what we are. How you were parented greatly influences how you're going to parent your children. But that method, that style that you're using, is it what really matters now? Or are we just going with the flow? Are we also, it may not be, because I know there's some people that say, I will never parent my children the way I was parented. Yes, I feel you. But sometimes what you have chosen, the style which you have chosen, is it the best for your child? Is that what you want? You want everything to be fine and okay? There's no tough love, I can see so many, my experience with things around me, especially during my childbirth years, was going with the flow, but need to pivot for my child. Yes, it's true. Sometimes we go with the flow. We become the Joneses and people follow us, or we follow the Joneses, whichever we are. Are we an influencer or influencee? And that's what I tell my children. You need to mold your character so that you become an influencer, not an influencee. You don't have to follow the flow, So that's a question we need to ask ourselves daily. Do you have an idea how you became the present you? Because that would actually determine the kind of parent you are. So constraints of a parent, you were engineered by your parents and you are modeling. And that's what I've been saying this past few minutes. I'm just fast forwarding the slides without getting there. So I'm being told that my internet, please let me know when I stop talking, because I'm being told that my internet is, connectivity is poor. So this is it. You were engineered by your own parents, and you are now gradually engineering your children through the power of modeling. And this is something we need to listen to the children sometimes. You know, one day a child came up to me and said, "Excuse me, auntie, why is it that parents are liars?" And I was like, "Excuse me, I don't understand this question. Could you take it again?" I said, "Why is it that parents lie a lot? Why is it that adults lie a lot?" And you can see that this child is in an atmosphere where too many lies have been told. And he's been able, he's a he, and he's been able to sniff out these lies and know that these adults are not telling him the truth. And I asked him and then he said, "Why do parents pretend a lot? Why do parents pretend a lot?" Remember those days when you were growing up, if your parent was sleeping and didn't want anyone to wake them up, they'll tell you to tell whoever is looking for them that they're not around. Are we doing that? Or do we just simply tell our parents, "Please, if someone looks for me, tell the person I'm having a nap, he or she can wait, and then when it's time for me to wake up, I'll wake up and attend to it, or the person can come." And some people find it a bit odd. How can you tell somebody who has, especially when you're living in Lagos, has gone through traffic and comes to your house and you're telling the person to come back next time? Remember, your children are watching. And this is why this little child has said, adults lie a lot and they pretend a lot. So how do we solve that issue? You know, and then when I was sharing this with my children, they said, "It can never happen in our generation, mommy. If you don't call, we're not answering you. If you knock, the door will not open." And I was shocked. I mean, if your friend does not call you to say, "I am coming," and comes, you will open and say, "No, I'm not going, because we don't have an appointment." I said, "Well, this is not a formal meeting. It's an informal, it's a friend coming to check." He said, "Well, call. I may be busy. I may want to sleep. I may want to do some assignments. I may want to do something. I may want to watch a movie," except the person is coming, and when he comes, he just enters and begins to watch the movie. And you don't even know what kind of movie the person may be like. The person may be the type that watches the movie and begins to form a commentary on that movie. So, and he kills the joy of watching the movie. You can as well listen to the person. And I was shocked. In our generation, we can't do that. We can't tell my friend, "Please call me whenever you're coming." I may not be around, I may be sleeping, I may be watching movie. And I was like, so these are things that we need to know. How are we modeling for our children? What are they seeing? Because kids don't hear us, they see us. If you say A and do B, they're two different things. So now you have the opportunity to do what? You now have an opportunity to parent the way you know it best, So what is it? How are you parenting, So you now have an opportunity to rewrite your parenting story. I think you need to move the slide, please. So you have an opportunity. Yes. There's some parents you can't say, there's some friends you can't say no to. When the children come to you and say XYZ is looking for you, you jump up from the bed. But this generation of children, they're telling us that we cannot and we should not. So you have to rewrite your parenting story, especially if you are within the group of the red alert. You need to rewrite your parenting story. Our parents have done theirs differently. We need to understand our children. So this is the tale of four parents. You have the preacher, the martyr, the sponsor, and the hero. So if you have, in all this four, some will say, oh, I'm the preacher. Some will say, oh, I'm the Martha. Some will say, oh, I'm the sponsor. Some will say, I am the hero. But who are you? Can we define this type of parent, the parent story? So the preacher, I'm sure most of us will recognize ourselves within this ambit of explanation. This parent is highly disciplined and religious. He or she and seeks to bring the child up in the way of the Lord without understanding the right way. So ends up with rules and regulations. Am I the preacher parent? The greatest fear of this parent is what people will say. So they tend to cover up a lot, and this self-sabotages eventually. That is it. So the preacher parent, what am I a preacher parent? Do I care what people say about me, myself, and my family, and my family, particularly my children? And that's why I'm an advocate of community parenting. If you are within a neighborhood and you notice something, please say it to the parent. They may not like it because we're too individualistic and we want to mind our business 24/7, every day of our life. Mind your business. I'm not going to mind my business because I'm not looking at a child. I'm looking at his soul. I'm looking at the inner being of this person. I'm looking at the human dignity of that child and his parents or her parents. That's what I'm looking at. A friend of mine who works with the airline says, we call you people passengers. But in the inner room in our operating room, we call you people souls. So if an airline or the airport authority sees us as souls, not passengers, it says a lot of who we are. Are we looking at ourselves as just that neighbor? Are we looking at the child and the family as souls? People that need to be edified, people that need to be encouraged so that they do what is right. My right may not be their right, but you have spoken out and you have told them, this is what I have observed, why you're not at home, this is what I see, I think you need to. Yesterday, I was coming back all the way from Abuja and just getting into I'm speaking to you all the way from Oka, by the way, for those who know me. I stay in Lagos, but I'm talking to you from Oka. That's the beauty of technology. And I just saw a neighbor of mine, the daughter, and the megad of the house where I'm staying. They were throwing stones. The megad has 4 children, mind you. They were throwing stones at each other. I said, later I'll go meet the mother to say, I noticed this. In fact, the driver now said, Madam, he said it in Igbo, this is how it starts. And I asked him, what starts? He said, Madam, you're an adult now, you should understand what I'm saying. But truly, that's how it starts. Before you know it, that young girl of 13, 14 years gets pregnant. And nobody was, I just sent her on errand and I don't even allow her to go out. So this is it. We just need, so are you the preacher parent who cares just for the good so that I appear good before people and don't even know the inner beings of my children to understand them, how they feel, to hear them out? Am I the preacher parent? Or am I the Martha parent? This parent makes a lot of sacrifices. A lot of us are making sacrifices. If are you still there, we need to move the slide, sorry.
Yes, I am. I am very much here. I was having a few challenges with my video, but I think I've resolved it.
Okay, can we get to the Martha parent? So this parent makes a lot of sacrifices for the child and gets to remind the child of the sacrifice at all times. There's no inner peace, so there's agitation and fear that may gradually affect his or her health. We're always agitating, we're always anxious, we're always overthinking. This parent is the one that I call the helicopters. They're the ones going round and round and round. Don't do this, don't do that. There, be here, be that, be this, be that. You don't need to. When I was working full-time 9-to-5 job, I had this mechanism that I used for my children. Like if he told you, I have 6 children. And at that time, my oldest was in primary. My oldest was my assistant, like I used to call him. So when the school is over, because the school they went to, the primary school they went had a lot of grounds. Those of you who know Lagos very well, Maryland Convent Private School, Maryland, within the axis of Ikeja. And each set of, they have the nursery, the lower primary and the upper primary. Every of this section of primary sections have their own playground, and then they have a massive football ground. They have their own playground. So what I do for my children was ask the oldest to go pick his brothers, and then end up to the youngest person's class. If they need to play, there's a playground there for them to do the playing. You don't need to play on your own playground, even though the school says that playground is for that particular session. But because he's minding his younger ones with the youngest one, they need to be at the youngest playground, and then he can do his, because he loves to play football. So he didn't, not every time he got it right. Sometimes I find him in the football pitch while he has gathered his younger ones in that particular class, and then he goes off to play his football. But the fact is that I was certain that these children were together. I didn't have to break my head to understand why this is so. And because once I pick them up, I am going home, I'm not going back to the office. So I needed to work extra hours, including the traffic that will get me to their school. And from there, I go home with the other children. So there is no inner peace. You're just agitating. You're afraid of what will happen. Let the children make mistakes. They learn from these mistakes. I laugh, like I keep on sharing this story because I was in a club, a sports club, and somewhere in Lagos, and then I noticed 2 parents. One was a foreigner, the other one was in Nigeria, and there was a stack of woods, plywood somewhere, and then this foreign child, this expatriate child, was busy jumping around, playing, discovering the area. And the mother just said, let me use the boy's name as John. John, be careful. While the Nigerian mother shouted out the boy's name, let me say the boy's name is Peter, and said, Peter, calm down, leave that place. Typical of us, typical, And of course, Peter went back to the mother and sat down and was sulking, while John was still playing and discovering his environment. And this is something we're always protecting our children, So the sponsor parent, we know that many of us are like this. Some of us, are like this. Money speaks for us. Money takes care of everything. I have a sister who is an ophthalmologist. She said she had a patient who was 10 years old. The driver was the one who escorted this child to the clinic. And then he had the latest iPhone. And she was wondering, she said, oh, that iPhone must be for your father or for your brother or your mother. I said, no, it's mine. Oh, really? What did you do to deserve this? She said, oh, it was for my 10th birthday. The latest iPhone, you know how much it cost? And then she was looking and was very entitled child, telling the driver, commanding the driver, and she was just looking at me and she said, we're gradually raising monsters. Because if this 10-year-old could talk to a middle-aged man because he's a driver, then you can imagine what will become of him when he's an adult. So yeah, the money is the name of the game, and the ability to send a child to an expensive school and provide the best of everything. Sending your child to the expensive school is not bad at all. It's just that you want to leave that child in the arms of the school so they do the parenting for you, and then everything is okay. There's usually little or no emotional connection, but this parent is readily available to pay for anything and everything money can buy. Are we the sponsored parent? Then the hero parent, a servant leader who models the right life and goes out of his way or her way to learn what is required. This parent never assumes she knows what to do, but is patient enough to understand the traits of a child is exhibiting, understands the digital challenge, and is willing to change himself to adapt or herself to adapt to the child's best interests. So are we the hero parent? Who are we? Why am I even a parent in the first place? That's a question that begs for an answer. Why am I a parent? Is it because the society feels that I should have children? Or is it because I need to understand why I should parent? Or do I understand that it's a God-given role, whether we're Muslims or Christians? We know that this is part of married life, or whether accidentally we had some experience and we ended up being a single parent. Whichever it is, now that I am a parent, what am I doing? How am I parenting in order to understand my children and for my children to understand me? You see, this hero parent is the one who is not afraid to make mistakes, who is ready to learn, who is ready to take corrections. If I come out of the street and I see Mr. A, I saw your son the other day. He was coming out of the car, and I noticed that his car he was going to school actually, and I noticed that his shoes were not polished. Would Mr. A or Mrs. A be upset that I made that statement? Or will he say, oh, thank you. You know, I usually leave the house quite early. I allow the driver and the maid to take my child to school. There are parents that are like that. I've seen many of them, particularly within my area, you know, and then they go away. And this parent was happy. And thereafter, whenever I see this young man, he's in the university, by the way, now, whenever I see this young man, his shoes are always polished, you know, and his clothes are well ironed. Because if I had told this man, because I need to understand, is it the woman I should speak to, or is it the man I should? You need to understand which of the parents is more involved. You may be surprised that most fathers are more involved than their wives or their mothers. And sometimes most mothers, or people will say 90% of the mothers, but there are more fathers who are also very, very much involved in their children's life. So you understand the father or the mother, and then say it in a subtle manner that the parent will know that what you're doing is help, not criticism, you know. So understand the digital challenge. You know, there's something that we usually do. What is it that we need to do? Sorry that I'm using myself as an example most times, but I just want to bring it home because I like saying what I have done, not what I have read or what somebody has told me, you know, but what has worked for me, and it may not work for you, but you may borrow some of the things I'm saying. That when the kids were much younger, we had a time that the TV would go off when they were on holidays. During the holidays, during school days, there were no TVs. Weekends, yes, we could have TV, but at what time are we watching this TV? And then when they're on holidays, at what time are they watching this TV? And when it's time to switch off the TV for them to go to bed, they do that at the exact time. When it's time for them to go and play, and it's time for them to come upstairs, come back to the house, they come back to it. I didn't even realize that the kids were keeping to this strictly until one day, a neighbor of mine, the husband usually isn't around, but he was on leave and noticed that whenever these children come around and play, they leave at a certain time. And then they asked the wife, why? That's how Chinelo says 6 o'clock, they must be in house. So by 5:50, they are running home to be at home. And they know what awaits them, the consequences of what awaits them when this doesn't happen. Please, parents, allow your children to play. Allow them to play. It helps them in their development. Even if you're afraid that send somebody that will be with them so that these children can expand their energy. I'm talking to younger parents now. You know, the teens would rather stay indoors and fiddle with their phones and all these smart gadgets they have. You know, so, and when it's time, have a visitor, and exactly they forgot I had a visitor. They went and switched off, and the woman was like, why did they switch off? I just looked at the clock and I noticed it was time for them to go to bed and switch off the TV. And I had to explain to that woman, She was happy to hear that, you know. So these are some of the things we need to do to understand and explain to them, because now they are doing it on their own. I don't need to talk to them. I don't need to shout at them for them to do this, because they know that it is good for them and why it is good for them. You know, so that's the parent. So who exactly is a parent? After all this that we have said, who exactly is a parent? Who exactly is a parent? You need to ask yourself, who exactly is a parent? You know, so a parent are teachers, you know, leaders, they are guides, protectors, provider for children. This is a statement, a quote that I got. And I love this lady. You need to probably check out some of her quotes, but I love this quote very much. Parents are teachers, they're leaders, they're guides, they're protectors, they're provider for the children. In other words, they are coaches. Because that's what a coach is, a teacher. A coach is a leader. A coach guides, a coach protects, a coach provides. So this in one word, parents are coaches, you know. So a parent as a teacher, parents have the primary responsibility for the education of their own children. I don't know if people noticed, saw the video going around a school in the UK, a faith-based school. That means that school places God first. When you say it's a faith-based school, whether it's a Muslim school or a Christian school, whatever school, whatever religion, once it's faith-based, that means God is there first. Argue with the parent that the child defined homosexuality in a certain way, and now this child is being punished for saying things that he knows. I passed that video to my sister, who is a teacher abroad, and he says that for asking that question alone, she may be sacked. That teacher who asked that question should even be sacked. And she teaches in a public school, not even a faith-based school. She said, I expect this thing from a public school rather than a faith-based school. And you saw how vehemently the mother was protective about her child. Well, this is what my child knows. This is what, please send my child back to me. I don't even want the child to be in that school. We need to stand up for our children. We need to educate them in character, in virtue, in holiness, you know. So educate them in human virtues. There's a saint here, Saint Jose Maria said, if you don't have the human virtues, for those who are Catholics amongst us, if you don't have the human virtues, you cannot have the theological virtues. And what are the theological virtues? Faith, hope, and charity. You just cannot have them. The human virtues are far, 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 far. They are foundations of the theological virtues, or the cardinal virtues. All this encompasses, you know. So if you don't have the virtue, and that's why you go abroad, most of them don't believe in God, but they have human virtues. They have human virtues. And that's why when they even turn around, they turn around big time. They become born again big time, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian. When you turn your life around, because you have those fundamental human virtues, it's easy for you to find God. Remember, this is a GPS, you know, or GSP, which one, you know, it's godly parenting. Godly parenting. So we need to talk about God here and see what the Bible has to say. Never forget these commands that I'm giving you today. Teach them to your children. Repeat them when you are at home and when you are away, when you are resting and when you are working. Because we need to teach our children. We're educators. We're the first educators of our children. And we need to understand what the school is even teaching them. If they are not in tandem with what we want them to know, that is a red flag for us. We move these children from. I have a friend who had her children in a school, and then she saw some obnoxious content in some of the textbooks and went back to the school authority to say, I saw this thing in my children's textbook. I don't think it's appropriate. Can you please expunge this, take away this textbook and bring something wholesome for the children to study? And the owner of the school just smiled at her and said, so you're one of them. She said she didn't say anything. She got up and that was the last day her children went to that school. So educate in holiness. We cannot pretend that our children are not seeing how we pray, how we talk, how we communicate, especially to those who are not our biological children, those house helps, the driver, the cook, the steward, the maid guard, whatever, then be mothers of good character. Don't shout, you're shouting. Don't lie, you lie. They can sniff it out. I tell you, I kid you not, I'm an educator, and the children in schools will tell our teachers lie a lot. These are the adults that are lying. So let's continue. Parents are leaders of the family. Yes, we are leaders. Parents need to understand the leadership concept of authority and influence and how they impact their children's behavior, attitude, and performance. What is your leadership style? How are you modeling this leadership concepts? How do you exercise your authority? Do you know who I am? You're a human being as far as I'm concerned. You're probably Mrs. AYZ. Nothing more, nothing less. You may be a manager, an MD in your company. Once you get home, drop everything. Drop everything and be a parent to your children. Teach them how to talk to the maid. Teach them how to talk to the driver. Teach them how to do this. Teach them. Someone said, oh, should my children sit at the back of when the driver? I said, it depends. If you do not have an adult in the car, let the children be at the back. You cannot guarantee the personality of that person. You don't know what the person is, So parents also need to be coached, like in their parenting, encouraging, motivational, yet firm when the need arises. And Ephesians 6:4 says, and you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. And this is when your children, when they're in the teens, when they think they are now the Lord and master of themselves, when they think they can do I was in a gathering, I was giving a speech somewhere, and a young girl, she was with her parents, it was a family gathering, and the young girl said, when should I stop listening to my parents? I said, the very moment you pack out of the house, you pick up your bills, then you can. Parents. And just like if she's laughing, everybody laughed that day. And the parents were like, oh, finally, somebody's telling this girl the truth. And then she just sat down and smiled. She said, but Ma, you haven't answered. I said, I have answered your question. When you start picking up your bills, you can stop listening to your parents. I kid you not. Because when the child starts picking the bills, she will understand what the parents are doing for her. So we need to do that. Raising a parent as a guide. So raising children can be likened to shepherding sheep. Parents take care of the sheep for the owner, God. Today's Sunday in the church, in my church, is called the Good Shepherd Sunday, or the Vocation Sunday. And at this point, I would like parents to pray for their children's vocation. And what can be that vocation? Apart from the professional, aspect of the child's development, there's a vocation to either get married, a vocation to become a priest and imam, or a pastor, or whatever it is, the child, or somebody who says, I'm not going to get married, but at the same time, I'm going to be celibate. I'm going to dedicate myself to God, and I'm not going to get married. So these are vocations. Have you prayed for the vocation of your children? Even if you want them to get married, are you praying for the vocation of your children? I got to know this when I had my third child. A priest told me, this is the time to start praying for your children's vocation. I said, oh, God will decide. But he said, no, you have to pray. You have to keep on praying for the vocation. I was pregnant with my third child. Yes, I remember clearly. So I give or take, my first child would be about 3 or 5, between 3 to 5 years then, So are we praying for 4 years to be precise? Now my first child will be 4 then. So I started praying and I'm still praying for the vocation of my children. Our children primarily belong to God. I told you These children are loaned from God. We are their parents because God has chosen us to take care of them and guide them towards fulfilling his will. How are we guiding our children? We'll tell them something today, tomorrow we're telling them another thing. We want a quiet, docile child. And when that child is quiet and docile, we say, can't you see other people? They are playing out there, they're bold, they're this. Meanwhile, you're praying for a quiet child. How do you marry the two? He can't be bold and quiet at the same time. So be careful what you pray for. You want to discipline your child, and then when the child comes and said, XYZ smacked me or slapped me, you need to stand up for yourself. Once he slap, you slap him back. Confusion. You're setting the child on a lane of confusion. Meanwhile, you're telling the child, oh, well, don't be careful, don't look for trouble. If anybody will walk away and the child comes back with a report, and you're saying, does that child have two heads? Beat him back. Their parents will tell their children this. You want a bold child. At the same time, you want a quiet child. You want a child who will listen to you. Once your child becomes bold, he will question everything and anything you say. Careful what you pray for. For you know that we dealt with each of us as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, urging you to live lives worthy of God, who calls you into his kingdom and glory. This is Thessalonians 2:11-12. So we need to be careful what we pray for. We need to be careful what we wish for. So parents are charged with guiding their children, physical and spiritual lives. Oh yes, we are. We must teach our children how to guide their souls and equip them with relevant spiritual formation to enable them to do so on their own when they are older. So how often do we read the Bible? How often do we, because I can see some Muslim names here, so I'll be mentioning the Quran as well. How do we guide them? How often do we read? And I must tell you people, the way we introduce religion to children is different from the way we introduce religion to adults. Keep them in doses, not everything at once, just like the preacher parent. Not everything at once. Keep them in doses so they can absorb it. The children are like sponges. They keep on absorbing until it becomes part of them. And then you teach your children how to guide their souls. That's why you see when we're younger and then a scene of kissing comes, we close our eyes because our parents have told us we should not watch that scene. Now you see both parents enjoying that scene, and I'm looking at it. Or immediately you see you go to some homes, immediately that scene is coming, they fast forward it depending on if it's Netflix they're watching, or they just switch to another channel if it's DSTV, or even our local TVs, whichever it is. The child already knows that because somebody said, what is not good for the soul of a child is not good for the soul of an adult. So let's not be saying, oh, I'm an adult, I can't. No. The children need to see you. Protect yourself from those things. Then I say to you, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you as he did for you in Egypt. Before your very eyes and in the wilderness, there you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a father carries his son all the way you went. And that's what we need. We need to nurture these children, guide them, protect them, carry them without being the master parental. That's why sometimes it's good for us. That's why even God allows us to make mistakes. And that's why we'll come back to him to say, I am sorry. The child needs to understand that he is sorry. I have done something. Okay, do this. A child told the parents, I want to do this. The mother said, I have been observing you all these years. You cannot do this. This is the profession I think you should do. And the child said, no, I need you. I want to do what I want to do. And the parents left him. He did what he wanted. Halfway, he found out that his parents were correct. He was just damn too lazy to follow his God-given gift. You're supposed to be a science student. You want to be an art student. Halfway, you find out you cannot cope. You now went back to science. So it allows we living for our children. My father told me that the legacy is living for me is my education. He didn't have anyone to send him to school. He sent himself to school. Now he swore that his own children would not have to go through what he went through. So he has given us legacies, education. So what legacies are we leaving for our children? Legacies of lies. You know, sometimes when I'm talking and I ask people, especially when the men are there, I ask them, I said, please, so this politician, sorry, I'm getting a bit political. These politicians, didn't they have parents? Were they not brought up? There are people who compromise their values because of bread and butter. There are people who send their daughters because they want something, material gains from the sojourn they're going to embark, not thinking about what God wants from us. This child you have given to me, what do you want from this child? Well, how do I help this child to harness and even understand the gifts you have bestowed on the child? And whether we like it or not, as mothers, it is important that even if our husbands are not in tandem or do not agree with us, you don't need to argue. All you need to do is just go down on your knees and tell God that this thing that I think I know and is right, please make it possible. It works. Except if God is not behind that project which you have for that child or for your children. But if it's a project that God has ordained and you pray, it will work. So what man of you, if his sons ask for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, you see, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give you things to those who ask him? That's prayer. I told you, you need to go down on your knees and ask God, this is what I want, except if God is not in agreement with you. But if God is in agreement with you, it will come to pass. It may take time. Look at this story of a boy. Do engineering. No, I'll do mass communication. Halfway, he found out that, oh, I think I can do engineering. No, I like it better than mass communication. 2 years gone down the drain. School fees in a private university gone down the drain. But when he retraced his step, his parents said, okay, welcome back. Thank you. You now understand. Okay, apply for engineering. We have it. But do you know that if the parents said, no, you must finish that mass communication before you start, that boy, the remaining 2 years of his life will be miserable. But that child, not only did he go back to the university to study engineering, he has become one of the best students, most behaved, that everybody is asking, where is this child coming from? Meanwhile, this child at home was perceived as a naughty person. That's the provider, the protector. So today's parents, sorry, I tweaked this from Albert Hofer, who said illiterates, today's illiterates will not be those who can read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I have tweaked it to suit the purpose of what we're doing today. So today's parents must not only provide for their children, but also be ready to learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's what we are. This is the generation we find ourselves. If you look back 30, 40 years ago, I am sure the parents of those times had to learn, unlearn, and relearn. The only difference now is that there's technology now. These children are facing an enormous challenge that we never did. We remember in my own time, I don't know about yours, TV started by 4 p.m. and closed by 10 p.m. And what did it call? News, 9 o'clock news, NTA news, after which you all, if you're lucky for your parents to let you listen to the news. Okay, news was 30 minutes and then there'll be some interlude or a short film, and then we all go to bed, depending on the time. If it was school, 8 o'clock, you're already in the bed. If you cannot sleep, they'll tell you to count 1 to 100, and by the time you finish, you're asleep. I still do that with some children, that if I have to nurture. So this is it. I am sure that these few minutes that we have spent, I don't know if you have questions and answers, you can. If I'm done, and I hope I have been able to explain who exactly is a parent. Thank you.
Please, let me ask you guys, what do you think? Was she able to break down this topic?
I like that. Direct question.
Yes, please give us some love in the comments, because I know that me, I've learned a lot today. So what do you guys think? Did she break it down? She did, right? See? I am Miss Chinelo. Miss Chinelo, I'm sure you can see that you did a good job. I mean, everybody has.
I'm wowed. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. You all will get to where I am today. But please take down things that you have learned, and the things you wished you would have learned, and things you would want to learn at the same time, so that ask your questions. If I can't answer them like at the beginning, I do not know everything. I do not, so please, Ify.